almost 3 decades, they have come to stake their claim at boomtown Bathurst, once the gold rush capital of New South Wales. The scenic, if not ego-bruising 6.2k public road course is used only sparingly for motorsport, but its reputation as Australia's greatest racetrack remains firmly intact. Mount Panorama is simply unique. It's been user-friendly over the years to Peter Brock, Alan Moffat, Alan Grice, Jimmy Richards, Larry Perkins, John Goss and Dick Johnson, who have conquered more than once. Today, members of the old school will once again take on the young guns at their own game in perhaps the most fascinating touring car contest of them all. Former world motorcycle champions Wayne Gardner and Johnny Cecotto will play their part. So too European stars Clouds Niedzwitz, Manuel Reuter and Anders Olofsson. Last year's winning combo of Jim Richards and Mark Skaife are in the lineup, despite Gibson Motorsport's failure in the Supreme Court to have Miss Godzilla enrolled at Weight Watchers. And as we prepare to say ta-ta to the GTR, Ford returns to Magic Mountain with its new generation 93 spec Falcon V8. So who will it be? Nissan? Holden? Ford? Or the beaut little BMW? The 7 Network welcomes viewers around the world to Mount Panorama Bathurst and the 30th anniversary of the world's greatest touring car race, the Tooheys 1000.
Hello and welcome to Bathurst for one of the great days in Australian sport. It's the day of the great race, the Tooheys 1000, the once-a-year motor race which attracts the attention of every sports fan. And today is an historic occasion, the 30th anniversary of the event at Bathurst, the end of one brief but very successful era, the Turbos, the recommencement of another era, Commodore versus Falcon. Well, the build-up's been perfect this week. Fine weather, huge crowds, and a number of upsets even before the race has started. Let's have a look at the forecast because the weather is all important here at Bathurst, particularly with the twin turbos for the Nissan GTR. Light norwesterly breeze, isolated showers. 30% chance, we're told, of showers today. Current temperature 8, expected high 18. Well, Gary Wilkinson joins me. And Gary, 30% chance of showers. I'd like to be taking the 30%. It looks about 70% at this stage, doesn't it?
If I were a betting man, I'd be putting my money on rain. I think it decidedly looks like that. The race this year is already a very complicated equation, and the weather is going to complicate it even further.
I think that's the fascinating mix this year, the unpredictability about the race. And we saw that in evidence yesterday during the Tooheys Top 10.
Yeah, but add to that the fact that we're ringing down the curtain on the turbos, the Nissan GTRs, the Sierras. We're bringing in new cars, the big V8s that are coming back. And we've got people like Larry Perkins and Tony Longhurst, whose cars that they've had now for 2 years are running better than ever. It's 2.5, 3 seconds faster than they were last year. And so they're right in there. And in the wet weather as well, the BMW would come into its own.
Now, yesterday you were yes, but is it too early now to ask you for a tip?
No, I'm tipping Richards and Skaife to beat Longhurst, and third place, Clouds Niedzwitz.
OK, 1, 2, 3 from Gary Wilkinson. Let's join Mike Raymond in the race centre. And Mike, there's already been some drama this morning in the warm-up.
There certainly has, Bruce. Of course, 7:30 through until 8 Eastern is the time set aside for drivers to get out there, sort the cars out, make sure that they're well prepared, there are no problems. There are a couple of problems, and we'll show you exactly what happened in that half-hour warm-up this morning. Most of the quick cars were as quick as they were yesterday, but Stuart Murphy in the Corolla was one driver who had some problems getting sideways on the run down to the dipper. Now, of course, 25 Tony Longhurst. Can you believe that, coming down the outside and spearing off into the wall? He's been able to limp back into the pits. It wasn't Tony at the wheel, it was Johnny Cecotto, his team driver. And Wayne Gardner, who was sensational on 2 wheels and actually found the rough right at the end of Conrod Straight in the Triple M Strathfield car radio entry. Well, Johnny Cecotto, I think, is feeling the pinch at the moment, and down there around the BMW pits is Johnny Brady.
Thanks very much, Mike. Johnny, just if you could tell us how it happened. Obviously, you couldn't get a bigger blow at this time.
Well, I was in a slow lap coming into the pits, and a very slow car, a little car on the left side of the road moved completely to the right immediately without seeing me. He let pass a car in front of me, and when I was coming, he blocked me completely. I braked hard not to hit him, and I was close to hit him. I I try to spin, but by spinning I hit the wall.
The damage is pretty severe. The TAFE guys down here trying to straighten up a chassis rail.
Well, the front is quite bad. I hope they can fix it.
All the best. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, some drama there right at the start with the Longhurst Chicotto team. Let's hope they can fix it. They've got just 2 hours to go now. We spoke to Mike a moment ago about the drama this morning. We had lots of drama here yesterday in the Tooheys top 10.
Alan Grice was the first gun to run in the HRT 93 Spec Commodore, but his exit at Hell Corner was not according to the manual. The excursion split the front air dam, but the honourable member for Broadwater still nailed down a respectable lap of 2:16.215. Peter Perfect followed in the mobile machine, and as you would expect, he was neat and tidy, though lacking a little grunt down Conrod Straight. 2:16.459 was not too shabby, unless, of course, your name was Brock.
Very poor time. Tyres a bit cold. Need a few more laps, I think, to get them warm, but oh well, that's the way it goes.
Much was expected from Klaus Nietzwitz in the Alan Moffat Synovus Vitamin Sierra, but he unfortunately made a couple of errors and they cost him dearly. 2 minutes 16.943 means he'll start from row 5 today. And keeping him company will be the exuberant Tony Longhurst in the B&H BMW. He was 5th fastest on Friday, but without the benefit of a draft, slipped back to 9th. Still a marvellous effort.
Oh, mate, I got a good tow from Larry yesterday, but listen, I'm wrapped. That's a good lap for me.
Last year's front row man, Mark Gibbs, was deceptively fast in the GIO Nissan GTR. He cut a smooth lap of 2:16.168 and will start from the outside of the 3rd row. Holden Racing Team came to the mount with 2 new VP Commodores, and this man made sure he delivered the goods. Thomas Mazzara howled around the track in 2:16.028 to be 5th fastest on the Panorama pole queue. The real cheers on the day, though, were reserved for Glenn Seaton in the lone Falcon EB V8. His Peter Jackson Ford certainly looked the goods, and it delivered as well. The baby-faced assassin, the chaser of the Commodores, Glenn Seaton.
He really is one of the great drivers in Australia. Still only a young bloke, 27 years of age. Seems like he's been driving forever. Had a few niggling problems with the car during the week. 1:11.40.
Ah, scorching.
Seaton is really flying.
Coming down beneath the Bridgestone Bridge. Last corner comes up at the end of Subaru Straight for Glenn Seaton. They're already cheering here, the fans. They got the checker at the ready as Glenn Seaton punches it across the line to complete his first lap in the EB Falcon V8, the Peter Jackson entry here at Mount Panorama.
Well, he was a second faster than Thomas Mazzara across the top. Look at that. He's gone under by a mile. 2:14.971. If these 93 spec cars got some potential, look at that.
Yeah, I'm wrapped. The car was just absolutely fantastic. It's been a credit to the whole team. It's taken a long while, but we're there now.
Defending pole champ Mark Skaife was the popular pick to make it 2 from 2. His twin-turbo Winfield GTR charged up the mountain, but 1,500 kilos is a lot of weight to carry. Under the circumstances, his lap of 2:14.546 was a beauty, though not good enough to make the front row.
2:14.56, a little out what you would have been expecting.
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, as I said before, with the Sierra, you can wind the boost up to get more straight line speed, so that's about as good as we could do.
Spectators have warmed to Larry Perkins since he blitzed the field in the recent Sandown 500. Yesterday, he silenced his critics with a marvellous lap in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. It may well be an early model VL, but Larry has a knack of coaxing more from a V8 than even the factory boys. Listen to the cheers up here. He's got a huge following here at Mount Panorama. A lot of Victorians here.
Just brushes the brakes off. Cuts the road down as short as he can. The crowd going berserk. Larry's a big favourite up here. Doing a superb job. 1:11.384. This will be a good lap from Larry.
Well, he's looking for a 2:14.5, 2:14.6, I'd reckon, but we'll see what happens when they stop the clock. Time about to come up. 2:14.431, spot on for Larry Perkins.
Yeah, it's as good as I could do. It felt very good. We've got to keep it all together for tomorrow, but that's as good as I could do, and wait and see.
Dick Johnson's last pole win at Bathurst was in 1989. The history books show he went on to win the Tooheys Classic that year. History might well repeat itself this weekend because he got the first leg of the double up yesterday and with consummate ease. Fellow who has won the great race twice.
Swan song for the Sierras. Ooh, Johnson gets sideways under power. Enormous power these things generate when they get on the boost. Johnson riding it right on the limit. Shell team had a few engine problems early in the 1:10.91.
Outstanding, the fastest time to the top of the mountain.
This is a stunning time from Johnson. Are they getting some speed out of these things? Ross Stone came aboard the Shell team this year. Used to go to the new suspension and engine development program. These cars really have been the highlight of the Ford Sierras in the Touring Car Championship. Johnson swings in hard on the brakes, maximum braking. He tries to squeeze every ounce of performance out of this car.
He's done a fabulous job. Tommy Smith and the boys at Shell be happy about this lap that Dick Johnson is cutting at Mount Panorama. This could be the leader of the pack shortly. As Johnson comes down to the final corner at the end of Subaru's straight, the checkered flag is out and Johnson takes the Shell Sierra across the line.
Very smooth, very precise.
2:12.89. There's no fox like an old fox, Dick.
Well, the greyer the hairs, I think the faster we go.
You've let Johnny Bow set the fastest times the last couple of days. People were even surprised you hopped in here. You certainly proved it.
No, well, the car feels good. I feel good. Must be all those 3 kilometres I swim every morning.
So here's how the top 10 will line up today. Johnson and John Bow on pole in the Shell Sierra. 2 is Larry Perkins and Steve Harrington in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. From 3, defending champions Mark Skaife and Jim Richards in the Winfield Nissan. 4 is the Peter Jackson Falcon to be shared by Glenn Seaton and Alan Jones. 5, the Holden Racing Team Commodore of Thomas Mazzera and Bradley Jones. Position 6, the second of the Nissans, the GIO GTR of Mark Gibbs and Rowan Onslow. From 7, the 1990 Great Race winners Alan Grice and Wyn Percy. 8 is perennial favourite Peter Brock and Manuel Reuter in the Mobile 05 Commodore. 9, the remarkable B&H BMW of Johnny Cicotto and Tony Longhurst. And rounding out the 10, the Synovus Vitamin Sierra of Klaus Niedzwitz and Greg Hansford.
Gary, we've been talking Group A's, and obviously they're the cars that everybody's particularly interested in, and the new spec cars this year.
Absolutely.
But there is another class here, the 1600cc.
You mean the Corolla class?
I do mean the Corolla class.
Yes, a field of 10 cars, and they are all Corollas, and it is very interesting because there's a guy called Jeffrey Full running in this who's won the category the last 2 years and is running again this year, and every year he's had a different partner. So if he can pull off 3 in a row with different driving partners, he'll be a genius. But the rally boys, the Bates twins from Canberra, were the fastest qualifiers there, ahead of the Bargwana cousins from Sydney, and then Full with his partner Peter Verheyen. So yeah, there's a lot of interest in that class as well.
Okay, that's the form guide on the 1600cc. We'll keep an eye on that. Group A, of course, most important. Mike Raymond over in the race centre is about to take a look at the full grid.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. It's been difficult to try and frame a market. I always said that I thought Richards and Skaife were odds-on certainties. But my co-commentators who I welcome this morning, Mark Osler and Richard Hay, guys, you might have other ideas.
I can't see anything different to the Nissan GTR winning this race. That #1 car is just bulletproof reliable. We've seen that all week, and certainly throughout the Touring Car Championship. And don't forget, Bathurst really is turbo country. The turbos love this circuit. They produce a lot of torque, and with these lower temperatures, it's really going to suit the turbo cars. So I can't see anything beating the GTR today.
What about you, Richie?
I think the Nissan would have to be favourite, but don't forget the Commodore. Wyn Percy and Alan Grice, they won 2 years ago. They finished second last year. And Alan Moffat has brought over Rudy Eggenberger to prepare his Sierras again.
That's something worth looking at. We might take a look at the entire field, how they will line up today for the 92 edition of the Great Race. Pole position, of course, has gone to Dickie Johnson. Sensational, outstanding performance there. Let's pick up, we've given you the top 10. Out of 11, it's Olofsson and Crompton in the second of the Winfield Nissan GTRs. Bond and Smith in the Caltech Sierra start at position 12. And out of 13, it is, of course, O'Brien and Bradman in the Synovus Sierra. From 14, it's 3. Trevor Reed and Steve Ashby, the Lanesvale Smash Repairs car. 15 is 35, Park and Parsons in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Starting out of position number 16, 55, Andrew Medecky and Troy Dunstan in the Mobile 1 Commodore. From 17, 18, Shell and Crick in the Shell Sierra. From 18, it's 20, Morris and Holm in the Benson and Hedges BMW. And from 19, 27, Terry Finnegan and Rogers in the Foodtown Commodore. And rounding out the top 20, Waldock and Peters in the Playscape Ampol Sierra.
Position 21, Moore and Gardner in the Commodore. Position 22, car 7, Peter Hopwood and Terry Bosanjak. Position 23, car 39, O'Brien and Graham in the Everlast Commodore. Out of position 24, car 41, Harrison Cook in the Daily Planet Holland. Out of position 25, car 13, Jones and Peter Jansen in the Ampol Max 3 Commodore. Position 26 today, car 50, Sailor and Weeks in the Ford Sierra. 27, car 6, Grant and Grant in the Nissan Skyline. Position 28, car 14, Johnson and Wall in the Commodore VL. Out of position 29, car 37, Burke and Carling in the Toyota Supra. And out of 30, car 44, McCall and Gazzard in the Kart Mania Commodore.
Position 31, Dulman and Cotter with their BMW M3. 32nd, fastest man, English and Lamont with the Marathon Foods Commodore. 33, Golson and Beck with the 635 BMW. 34, Hendrick and Blanchard with another Commodore. And 35th, Wilmington and Watkinson with yet another Commodore. Position 36, Kerr and Watson with a Commodore. 37, Matthews and Newton with the Sierra RS500. 38, the first of the little Toyota Corollas, Bates and Bates. 39, Bargwana and Bargwana with their Corolla. And in 40th, another Corolla, Verheyen and Full.
From position number 41 in the grid, 72, Easton and Stratton in the Corolla. 42 is 76, Gardner and Conway in the second Corolla. 43, 73, Bobby Holden and Jones in another Toyota. From position number 44, 78, Dunford and Wright. Out of 45, it's Frank Binding and Tyndall in the Commodore. From position number 46, Murphy and Barnes in the Toyota Corolla. Little incident there this morning. And from 47, 77, Raya and Talbot in a Toyota Corolla.
So Mike Raymond there with Richard Hay and Mark Osler bringing us right up to date with the 47 starters in the Tooheys 1000. Well, much of the attention during the week has surrounded rookie driver and former world motorcycle champion Wayne Gardner. The Wollongong whiz makes his first trip to the mountain on 4 wheels. He did it on 2 in 1979, but today he's the new kid on the block. The Graham Moore Commodore won't be a threat to the hotshots, but merely having Gardner here at Bathurst is an enormous attraction.
Wayne Gardner joined the World 500 Trail in 1983, but was ready to call it quits after striking Italian Franco Alcini during this race at Assen. The young rider was convinced he'd killed Alcini, whose helmet parted company with his head. Apart from a stiff neck and a king-size headache, he was okay. Gardner was the king of the two-wheelers in '87. He won the World Championship and, like most Aussies, was considered an overnight success. The Rothmans Honda rider will always be remembered for his gutsy performance to win the Aussie GP at Phillip Island before 90,000 fanatical fans. 1 week later, his career was on hold after a nasty spill at Laguna Seca. But above all, Gardner's best race came at the island when he battled a machine virtually falling to pieces beneath him to win his second Aussie GP.
I'm pretty happy for the second year running, so yeah!
92 promised so much for the Wollongong whiz, who was ready to race teammate Mick Doohan for the title. But this mistake at Suzuka was to put him out of action for most of the year. When he did settle on a retirement date just before the British GP at Donington, he felt relieved. And just to silence the knockers once and for all, he went out and blitzed the field, much to the delight of the British supporters. 2 days later, he was at Hockenheim in Germany testing out a BMW to see whether 4 wheels could be as much fun as 2. His only previous 4-wheel experience in serious machinery was at Sydney's Parramatta Raceway, where he was bitten by the sprint car bug, and he aims to play on the clay again this summer.
It's, I guess, a power-to-weight ratio and a feeling of, that grunt coming up the corner. I guess that's what I'm hooked on.
Our handlebar hero returned to Germany 2 weeks ago for the DTM race at Nürburgring. He had to pre-qualify, but did that easily, wringing the neck of the little bimmer and giving a couple of the notable F1 lads some hurry-up along the way.
Being Wayne Gardner isn't going to give me results. I have to work hard for the results. So, as I said, the opportunity was there to get my foot in the door. Now that's happened. Now I've got to try and produce the results. And that's going to come, hopefully, with experience.
Gardner used the meeting as a tryout for the 1000. He's still getting to grips with the Tourers, but then so too was ex-Formula 1 world champion Keke Rosberg.
The only thing you watch here is you don't over-rev. Everything else has to be aggressive, dirty, Formula 1 has to be clean, fast, very precise work. And here you just go for it.
Wayne has certainly been the centre of attention since he arrived here to join the Graham Moore Strathfield car radio team. Being in the spotlight is nothing new, but he won't be drawn into predicting where he'll finish in the field.
Oh, I've put the point across to the people that I am here to learn, and you're right, I am a rookie, and I am treating it as an experience thing, and I do want to walk away here, have a bit of fun, keep the car off the wall if I can, and just enjoy the weekend.
This is undoubtedly Gardner's most difficult challenge. No longer is he a certainty for the front row. The VN Commodore will start midfield after some steady qualifying times.
Being out there for 1,000 kilometres, or half of it anyway, I think that I'm going to be mixing with traffic, get more confident with the car, what the car does, and try and keep out of trouble. And I think by the end of the day, I think we should run okay. I think if we can be in the top 10, I think we'd have a great day.
But this morning hasn't nearly been as kind to Wayne Gardner. Wayne, a pretty rough warm-up this morning.
Well, it's been a rough week, let alone warm-up, and I think the warm-up sort of capped the whole week off. But it's okay, it's better to do it in practice than in the race. And the car feels really good this morning. We've got it set up really well, and it feels great to drive. And in fact, I've gone quickest I've gone all week, which is a start. And I came down Forest Elbow. There's a lot of fiberglass everywhere. Apparently, Chicotto hit the wall and left a lot of debris. I couldn't avoid it. I ran over some of the spoiler and I punctured my front tyre. Got down the end of the straight, jammed the brakes on, and of course there was no grip from the front with a flat front, and I just drove it straight into the sand and buried it, and I started playing in the sand from then on.
I guess the sand, though, it's a nice difference to some of the walls you've hit on the bike when you get a flat tyre.
Well, my eyes are about this big, going up the end of the straight, but the nice thing is I got out and I said, oh, that didn't hurt. That was really great.
OK, Wayne, we certainly wish you all the best a little later on.
Thank you.
Well, one man who's really dominated over the last 12 months has been Mark Skaife. He's been in brilliant form, just 25 years of age. He's a defending champion here. He's the touring car champion of Australia.
Unlike the Nick-Eye Dow, everything has been coming up roses for Mark Skaife over the past 12 months. The 25-year-old has enjoyed a dream run in the GTR Orient Express. He took pole last year for the Tooheys 1000 and then went on to partner Jim Richards in the winning Nissan twin-turbo two-door. The handicappers may have caught up with Godzilla this season, but the high-tech Winfield team car still had an edge over their opponents in the Shell National Series. Skaife took the lead almost from the outset of the championship and systematically tightened the screws as he and Richards ran amok on the way to the Oran Park Grand Final. Not content with dominating one category, Mark Skaife has also found time to set up a repeat of his Gold Star success during season 91. Yes, it's been a remarkable 12 months for the young driver, so if you intend having a little wager on the outcome of today's mountain marathon, the money looks safe on Skaife.
A racing car fanatic, you've already met him this morning. Doug Mulray takes a look back at some of the thrills and spills on the circuit over the last 3 decades.
A cheery and sincere commentators welcome to 7 Sports Classic Crashes, 9 of motor racing's major moments on the mountain. Crash A is the Vauxhall Viva from the race of 67. A lot of prestige for a driver being included in our Classic Crashes segment. This character was so keen to be Crash A, he even had a big A painted on his door. He said, I want the big A, and he got it. Crash B, the unforgettable side of Dickie Johnson, carving out a Falcon-sized shortcut to Lithgow, right through the mulga. Here it is again. Dickie Johnson doing so much damage to the forest that year that Sting later wrote a song about it. Crash C features the Japanese driver Katayama, who came out here for the race in 67. Ooh, very nasty. Still, the medicos were quickly on the spot for this one and even managed to get the bandages on without removing his helmet. Kevin Bartlett featured in Crash D. Kevin's always given the punters great entertainment and pointed out to the crowd quite quickly the same thing my father pointed out to me on entering puberty. Never trust rubber. Quite a promotional coup for Kevin in this race, managing sponsorship not only from Channel 9 in Sydney, but also from Channel 6 in Hobart. Crash E involved just about everyone, but mostly Scott Tom Walkinshaw, who won the race in a Jaguar in 1985, but didn't fare nearly so well here in 84. In fact, he never got off the line, finished before he started. Motor racing's answer to premature ejaculation, really. Poor old John Goss, who owned the car, was so upset by the crash, he was speechless. The only positive aspect of the whole incident. Crash F is Bill Brown's spectacular rollover from the great race of 1971. Brown was a lucky man to survive this one. In fact, he was so glad to be alive, he donated his driving suit to the Mount Panorama Museum. Although the sign on the suit doesn't read Bill Brown's driving suit, it actually reads Bill's Brown driving suit. Yes. Crash G should gladden the hearts of RSL members all over the country. Germany's finest, getting all sideways before a crowd-pleasing head plant in the dirt at McPhillamy Park. As a Jaguar lover, certainly my favourite stack in the pack, but a sorry sight for lovers of the three-pointed star. And let's face it, a lot of people really dig Mercs. Take Phil Ward, for example. Now, Phil, don't be like that. Incident H features the immortal 05 car, an Australian motor racing legend. Not a vehicle that we'd expect to see in an accident, not in the hands of Peter Perfect. Let's see it from another angle now. And in fairness, point out that it's actually co-driver Andy Rouse at the wheel, not Brocky. Brocky was actually back in the pits, picking out a new co-driver for next year. Our final classic crash, Crash I, involves the Cabbage Commodore. You'll notice the plume of smoke billowing out behind. That's a blown engine and an expensive incident for a largely unsponsored privateer. Still, he's had the presence of mind to park well off the circuit there and out of harm's way. Oh dear. Mr. K, it's not your day. Well, that's it. Classic crashes A to I. Now just put them into alphabetical order and prove the critics of the Australian education system wrong.
Well, there's no doubting what a lot of the fans have come here to see today at Mount Panorama, and that's to see the Red Terror on pole position again, the number 17 Shell Sierra of Dick Johnson and John Bowd. Dick, a sensational effort yesterday. Can you repeat that performance? Not up to speed, I mean, but can you repeat that in the race today?
I sincerely hope so, Gary. Everything's looking good for us. We've seemed to have everything sorted out very well, and we're certainly looking forward to the race.
Mr. Bob Campbell is here on behalf of the Seven Network with a big fat cheque for yesterday's effort.
Dick, $15,000 to his Top Gun for pole position. Congratulations and good luck today.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks, Channel 7. And to be quite honest, I just can't think of another team that deserves it as much as ours, I can tell you.
Good luck, Dick.
Thank you.
Dick Johnson, Tui's Top Gun for 1992, and the man who'll start from pole position in the great race here in not too long from now.
Plenty happening here at Bathurst at the moment. One man not starting on pole today, but he's starting in number 4, and he's driving that mighty Falcon, is Alan Jones.
Alan Jones left his homeland early during his racing career to become a big fish in a large ocean. And he succeeded. World Formula One champion in 1980, he won 12 Grand Prix from 116 starts and always gave 110%. AJ's driven everything from F1 to Indy and Can-Am sports. Today he prefers to stay at home, race tourers and be serious about Bathurst. He finished third here in '88 with Colin Bond before joining Tony Longhurst's B&H team for a solid attack on the Shell Nationals and the Tui's 1000. Less than a week after the 93 5-litre V8 touring car formula was announced by CAMS, the Jones boy was on his way back to Ford thanks to the Glenn Seaton Peter Jackson team. The stunning EV Falcon V8 might be considered a little underdone for this year's 1000k Enduro, but AJ always enjoys a big banger and claims this race and this place suit the fabulous Ford like no other layout.
It's now time for the singing of the Australian National Anthem. Now, 2 years ago, we invited a gentleman here to perform this for us, and unfortunately, an accident befell him which almost cost him his life. 2 years down the track, we're happy to invite him back to sing Advance Australia Fair, the legend of rock, Mr. Cole Joy.
Thank you.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty. States advance Australia fair. Enjoy it from strange and let
What a fabulous reaction from the spectators here at Mount Panorama Bathurst to Cole Joy, the rock legend, singing our national song this morning before a capacity crowd along the front straight, along Pitt Straight here at Mount Panorama. They've come ready for a big race. Let's go back to Gary.
It's time to fire up the field for the 1992 Tooheys 1000, the great race. And it's my pleasure to introduce the Grand Marshal for this year's race, the President of the Confederation of Australian Motorsport, Mr. John Large.
Thank you, Gary. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be here on this, the 30th anniversary of the running of the great race here at Mount Panorama Circuit in Bathurst, and the dawning of a new era in Australian motorsport. Now, I know the whole of Australia is waiting, not to mention some several million viewers from around the world. So without further ado, it's time to commence the running of the 1992 Tooheys 1000. Gentlemen, start your engines!
And as the starting command is given, those V8s and Nissans and BMWs explode into life here on the starting grid at Mount Panorama. As you can see, the weather is starting to close in. There being talk all day, a 30% chance of rain. I think that's blown out in the market. It is certainly looking very much like rain within an hour or so, but we have the competitors forming up. Dickie Johnson and Larry Perkins on the front row of the grid. Larry, of course, the winner of the Sandown 500 recently. Dickie Johnson blitzing them in qualifying yesterday in the Shell Sierra, taking pole position, and right behind the Mark Skaife, the defending champion, along with Jimmy Richards, and the new EB Ford Falcon, the Peter Jackson car, off position number 4. As I mentioned earlier, a tremendous crowd here at Mount Panorama for this fabulous sporting contest. We're not too far away from the start. 16 is, of course, the Holden Racing Team Commodore, Win Percy, Alan Grice. Sharing that car today, Peter Brock, of course, in the Mobile Commodore number 05. We are 10 seconds away from the start of one of the really great sporting spectacles of Australia, the Tooheys 1000. Engines come up to rev, so they get off the line. Seaton makes and muffs the start, and it's Johnson up on the inside of Perkins with Mark Skaife looking for it, but he'll drop back one spot. 05 is stalled on the starting grid, Peter Brock. And Brock sitting there as the rest of the field goes through the first turn and works their way now up Mountain Straight. Dick Johnson away to a brilliant start. And there's the second of the Johnson cars back in car number 18 as Johnson starts to stretch it. Mark Skaife gets up very, very smartly indeed. Follows up. Mark Gibbs also away to a great start, the first of the Commodores, and Seaton now starting to pick it up. That's Thomas Mazier in the 15 car, qualified so strongly as they go over Repco corner and head up the mountain for the first time. Fabulous sight. Only Peter Brock stalling at the starting line.
A magnificent, there is shot of 05, Peter Brock. What a tragedy for the Holden fans. Fortunately, the rest of the field managed to miss him. There's his other car, car 55, Hideki, and Troy Dunstan. As this magnificent sight as the field streams across the mountain for the first time. Peter Brock just getting mobile on Pitt Straight as they come across this sweeping, fast left-hander across the top of the mountain. The crowd going mad. A mix of V8s, turbos, and here we are, the turbo war. Dick Johnson leading the pack through, then the Works Nissan, then Gibbs.